One in-season contract extension already in the books for the Houston Texans after they extended Brevin Jordan, who's dealing with a knee injury that cost him most of this year. Could there be other names that the Texans should consider signing to an in-season contract extension? We'll dive into that right after we take a look at what Brevin Jordan ended up with. $2.1 million is the max value for this contract. That's a good amount of money for a guy that will go into his fifth year in the NFL, is familiar with your team, familiar with your quarterback if you keep the same style of offense, familiar with the offense. He's got to bounce back physically from the knee injury, of course, but could be a nice steal for Brevin Jordan. And you're not paying that much money, even if it does work out for Brevin Jordan. And if it doesn't work out, it was a worthwhile risk for the Texans to take at less than $1 million. They've got some protections built in there with the per game active bonus, the workout bonus, things of that nature. So it's a really solid deal. And that's what you have to approach in-season contract extensions with. Three things that feel to me are key elements of an in-season contract extension. And most of them, you need two, and you'd love to have all three. The first one is it's got to feel like a deal. Got to feel like you saved a little bit of cash, cap space, whatever it may be. You don't want to pay market value for an in-season contract extension, because if you pay market value now, why wouldn't you just pay market value as a free agent? So it's got to feel like you saved a little bit of cash as the team, or saved a little bit of cap space as the team. You'd like for it to some point feel like a steal. For instance, if Brevin Jordan turned into the second best tight end on this team, the fourth or fifth pass catcher for this team, at $2 million, that's a worthwhile investment. Could be a steal for the Houston Texans if he plays up to the max potential that he has for this Texans team. So when you think about signing a player, you love for it to turn into a steal. Can this player make it feel like I made a great decision in season? Think about Blake Cashman a couple years ago when he was kind of a special teams backup, and then the Texans played him a whole lot more last season after they extended him in season the previous year. He turned out to be a steal. So got to feel like a deal. Hope it can be a steal, and can't hurt the players' feel. Ings. Try to stay on the rhyming thing there with that. Like, the players got to feel like it's a pretty good deal for him as well. Typically, it's older players or extenuating circumstances that the players have to deal with that you would maybe be able to get them on a deal and have them turn into a steal. But you can't hurt the players' feelings when you go to talk about these contracts, or you can't have a guy that's going to be 6 weeks into that new contract next season and be unhappy with his money and his take home on that. So with that being said, trying to hit those three benchmarks for the new contract that you would try to offer a player in season. Let's talk about some players that could potentially get an in-season contract extension, or at least players the Texans should have the conversation about. Let's start with a player that's dealing with a knee injury, not so dissimilar from the one that Brevin Jordan is dealing with. Stefon Diggs went down in the middle of this year in what was supposed to be a big year for him. He transformed the contract to a one-year deal. To be a free agent at the end of the year. If he had a really good season, he'd have been at the top of a lot of teams' wish lists, and maybe even at the top of the Texans' wish list, bringing him back to pair with Nico Collins. But Stefon Diggs went down with the knee injury in the middle of the season, and that threw that idea into chaos. So why would Diggs think about a contract? Well, he would think about a contract because he's familiar with the team. He knows the quarterback, and he knows that he can have success in Houston. He was on his way to a pretty solid season as a wide receiver 2, kind of wide receiver 1 sometimes. And he was on his way to a pretty solid season overall for the Texans before the knee injury robbed him of the rest of his season. So that was unfortunate for him, but he'd come back with confidence, understanding of who the team is, the organization. He seemed to enjoy playing here, and he would know that he would need to have a really big season, rebuild his value, and then hit free agency as a healthy player. Now, why would the Texans do it? It becomes a bit more difficult to see how the Texans would do it, because on top of got to feel like a deal, could be a steal, don't hurt the players' feels, you need the player to be able to produce. And with a midseason knee injury, the first major injury of Stefon Diggs' career, it's tough to estimate exactly when Stefon Diggs would be super useful to the Houston Texans. Is he going to be a week 7, week 8 type player where he bounces back really quickly and he can help you right away? Is he going to be able to practice in training camp early on in the season? Would he have to start the season on the physically unable to perform list? The Texans will have a good idea of the knee situation until Diggs becomes a free agent. And then it's up to the player to kind of explain, say, hey, my knee's okay. But players, they're always going to say they're going to bounce back. They're going to be okay. Teams have to be a bit more cautious. With Diggs, and the fact that another team might be willing to take the risk that he's going to show up a little bit later in the season and be a big element for them, the Texans would need a guy that can be ready to go from day one. I don't know that Diggs totally fits that with the injury and recovering from the injury. So I'm going to say no in-season contract extension for Stefon Diggs, and maybe even no conversation could be had for the Texans or Stefon Diggs. You just let free agency play it out. Remember, Odell Beckham, coming off of an injury, got $15 million for a one-year deal. I don't know that I'd be super comfortable with Stefon Diggs getting that contract. And again, if you make that commitment, who's filling his spot until he is ready to play for this team? Because he probably won't be ready right off the bat to start the 2025 season. So I'll say no deal for Stefon Diggs. Hey, come here. PrizePicks, best, easiest way to play daily fantasy. Play your first 5, get $50 on PrizePicks. Use my code Stoots, STOOTS. We'll put an entry together at the end of this video, so stay tuned. How about a deal for one of two defensive tackles, either Mario Edwards or Foley Fatukasi? I wouldn't try to re-sign both of them because the Texans do need to get some youth at that position, and they've done a good job churning through the veteran defensive tackle options to find guys like Fatukasi and Edwards. So you won't want to make any sort of long-term commitment to both of those guys, but one of them could make a lot of sense. I'd go with Mario Edwards. He sort of found his way in this defense. He's found a way to make an impact from that defensive tackle spot where he's previously played a lot of defensive end in his career. That was the thought process from the Texans when they brought him in here. They felt like his skill set was going to fit this defensive tackle situation. And it was not a heavy investment into Edwards. He makes probably about half of what Fatukasi makes. If you gave him, say, Fatukasi's deal from this year, so he doubles up his salary for 2025, that would feel like a deal. Maybe it could be a steal if he continues to be a solid rotational player on your defensive line, and wouldn't hurt the players' feels either. So that would check all the boxes. Fatukasi's injuries would be something that would keep me from shying away from an in-season contract extension with him, just because how many of these injuries are going to linger? Are there any surgeries that need to be done to fix those things in the offseason? I'd probably wait on a guy like Foley Fatukasi. So one of the two defensive tackles, I'd say yes, deal for Mario Edwards, and maybe even in season for Mario Edwards, but no deal for Foley Fatukasi. Let's move back a little bit to the linebacker position. Hey, the linebacker spot for the Texans has been really solid. He's Alshire. He's going to be suspended for 3 games, but he's been really good as a free agent addition. Henry To'o in his second season has been a really solid player for the Houston Texans. But when To'o and Azeez Alshire were out, in came Neville Hewitt, who is a special teams ace and played really well at the linebacker spot in the preseason, which gave the Texans confidence to turn to him in the regular season. And he's been a solid player at the linebacker spot. I would think about a deal in season for Neville Hewitt. Keep him around as a special teams ace. Keep that linebacker room and the depth in that linebacker room solid, because Alshire's not going anywhere. To'o's not going anywhere. So Neville Hewitt slots in there. He knows the defense. He's excelled in this defense this season. Give the special teams ace and backup another opportunity to continue to find that role for himself. And, linebacker, it's a physical spot. You don't play all 17 games. I mean, Alshire was banged up earlier this year. So was To'o. You need a guy like Hewitt. You need a guy you can trust. Why not keep him in here? You don't want some other team with a little bit of extra cash to spend to rip your special teams ace away from you. It would be a good idea to keep Neville Hewitt for the Texans. I'll go deal for Neville Hewitt. I'll also think about a deal for Devin White. It's been a small sample size, but Devin White jumping in here in the middle of the season and basically playing right away for this Texans team. That's been a really big surprise. He was kind of an afterthought after he didn't make it in Philly and he kind of sat out a little while waiting for the right opportunity. Well, the Texans have turned into the right opportunity for Devin White. And when you start to think about Henry To'oTo'o, Azeez Al-Shire, Devin White, Neville Hewitt, and the inevitable return of Christian Harris, if that was your linebacker room heading into 2025, you fill in with some other veterans or young guys to fill out the rest of the linebacker situation, pretty decent linebacker room. You can make some hay with that linebacker room. I've been really impressed with White when he has been on the season. He's got the athleticism to go out there and cover. He was really good his final year in Tampa covering the football. I think about an in-season deal for Devin White as well. We'll go thumbs up. Deal for Devin White. So to recap, no deal for Stefon Diggs, Foley Fatukasi. How about an in-season deal for Mario Edwards, Neville Hewitt, and Devin White? And with any of these in-season deals, it doesn't preclude you from adding players at that position. The linebacker ones, maybe because you're signing two, but you could still go draft a big-time defensive tackle to play with Mario Edwards and Tim Settle, who's under contract next year. You could still go out there and find yourself a linebacker that could, maybe as a project that could grow into that position in the next couple of years. You don't preclude yourself from doing anything. Heck, the tight end deal that Brevin Jordan signed, you could go out there and find a developmental tight end, somebody that doesn't have to play right away, or someone that maybe has a unique skill set compared to Stover, Schultz, and Brevin Jordan at the tight end spot, and you can put him on the roster. That's another element of in-season contract extensions. With guys like this at this level of talent, you don't want to hem yourself in to a certain type of deal or a certain type of player that you have to go add or backfill on that roster spot. You want to still have a little bit of flexibility, go do some fun things with your 53-man roster. So what say you? Would you make some of these deals for the Houston Texans? Would you do some of these in-season contracts for some of these players? Let me know in the comment section down below. On your way down there, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't forget, we'll have a PrizePicks entry put together here at the end of the video for you. Appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait until we talk Texans again soon. I told you we put one of those PrizePicks entries together. Do it. Let's put one together. PrizePicks, so easy. Use that code Stoots, STOOTS, when you sign up. You play your first 5 and get $50. Thanks to my friends at PrizePicks. This is the NFL board that you got here. You put it together. All you're doing is predicting more or less on given stats and putting them together in an entry, and it is so much fun. Let's go to those rushing and receiving touchdowns. I really like Saquon Barkley to get into the end zone this week. I also really like Jamar Chase to get into the end zone this week. So is there another player that we want to add to this touchdown heavy entry? I'm not seeing anything just yet. Let's get into some of those passing yards. Let's see. Look at that little itty bitty discount there for Patrick Mahomes. More than half a passing yard? Well, we can do that for sure. Let's get into the passing touchdowns. Who are talking about Loa versus the Jets? I don't know. I mean, Burrow. I mean, come on. He's been slinging this thing all over the place. Put Joey Burr in there. We got a pretty good entry here with 4 slots. Let's see if we can get 5. Let's see if we can find one more in this one. And Mac Jones kind of threw it around on the Texans. Surely he can throw it around on the Titans a little bit. Let's put Mac Jones in there. Let's put $5 here. Let's go down. We're going to make it a power play so we get 6 times. But you can also make it a flex play where you don't even have to win all the pieces of your entry to win something. But we're going to go power play. 5 to win 30 on this little simple one. That's how easy it is to put together a PrizePicks entry. 5 wins you 30, 6 times your money. They got the opportunity now for you to 1,000 times your entry. That's right. That's what makes PrizePicks the best. Okay, and you saw how easy it is to get signed up now. Play your first 5, get $50. You don't even have to win to get that 50. You just put your first 5 in. If you don't win, they're going to send you 50. How about that? That easy. Use the code Stoots, STOOTS. When you get signed up, use the link in the description down below. Appreciate you playing with my friends at PrizePicks, the best, easiest way to play daily fantasy.